For many football fans, loyalty is one of the most important parts of the game. Players come and go, trophies are won and lost. But loyalty is what creates a connection between a club and its supporters. That is why some transfers are remembered forever, not because of the money involved or the trophies that followed, but because they changed how people felt. This is the story of a player who was once loved, respected, and celebrated by thousands. A player who seemed destined to remain a hero. But one decision would change everything and transform admiration into anger almost overnight. Before the controversy, he was one of the most admired players in the country. His passion on the pitch made supporters feel connected to him in a way that statistics could never explain. He fought for every ball, celebrated every victory with emotion, and gave the impression that he truly understood what the club meant to its fans. Week after week, his reputation continued to grow. He was not just another footballer wearing a shirt. To many supporters, he represented the identity of the club itself. That connection seemed strong enough to survive anything, and nobody expected what would happen next. As the seasons passed, his importance became even greater. Supporters sang his name, children looked up to him, and the media often described him as one of the most influential players in the league. Whenever difficult moments appeared, he was usually at the center of the response. His energy and determination made him a fan favorite, and many believed that his future was already written. The relationship between player and supporters looked unbreakable. But football history has shown many times that emotions can change quickly, and sometimes a single decision is enough to erase years of admiration. Rumors began quietly. At first, most supporters ignored them because they sounded impossible. Transfers happen every year, but some moves feel unthinkable because of the emotional consequences attached to them. The idea that this player could leave for a rival seemed unrealistic. Fans dismissed the stories, believing that loyalty would matter more than opportunity. However, as the weeks passed, the rumors refused to disappear. Newspapers continued reporting new developments. Journalists discussed the possibility daily, and uncertainty slowly replaced confidence. For the first time, supporters began to wonder if something was seriously wrong. Eventually, speculation became impossible to ignore. Every interview was analyzed, every statement was examined, and every public appearance created new discussions. Supporters searched for reassurance but found very little. The silence surrounding the situation only increased tension. Some fans remained convinced that he would stay, while others feared that the rumors might actually be true. The atmosphere around the club changed completely. What had once been a story about success and admiration was becoming a story about doubt and anxiety. Nobody knew exactly what would happen next, but everyone understood that a major decision was approaching. When the official news finally broke, everything changed instantly. The reaction was not slow or uncertain anymore. It was immediate, emotional, and extremely intense. Supporters who once defended him began to feel betrayed, and the atmosphere around the club shifted from admiration to anger. It was not just about a transfer anymore. It became something deeper, something personal. For many fans, it felt like a promise had been broken. The player who was once seen as a symbol of loyalty was now at the center of one of the most controversial decisions in modern football history. The moment he appeared in his new environment, reactions were immediate. Instead of applause, there was silence mixed with disbelief and anger. Fans struggled to accept what they were seeing. It was difficult to process how someone so closely connected to one identity could now represent its biggest rival. Every touch of the ball was followed by tension. Every movement was watched with frustration. The emotional connection that had taken years to build seemed to collapse in a single moment. replaced by a feeling of disappointment that would not fade quickly. Media coverage intensified the situation even further. Headlines focused not only on the transfer itself, but also on the emotional reaction of supporters. Analysts debated whether loyalty in modern football still meant anything or if the game had completely changed. Some defended the decision as a professional step, while others described it as a betrayal that could never be justified. The story quickly spread beyond one club or one country. It became a global discussion about football values, loyalty, and the growing business side of the sport. Inside the football world, opinions were deeply divided. Former players and coaches shared different perspectives, each influenced by their own experiences in the game. Some believed that every player has the right to make career decisions based on opportunity and ambition. Others insisted that certain moves cross a line that should never be crossed. The debate revealed how complex modern football had become. It was no longer just about tactics or performance. It was about identity, emotion, and the fragile relationship between players and supporters. As time passed, the initial shock slowly turned into a lasting memory that would define how this transfer was remembered. Every time similar situations appeared in football, people went back to this moment as a reference point. It became a symbol of controversy, a reminder of how quickly admiration can turn into anger. Even those who tried to separate emotion from analysis could not ignore the impact it had left behind. The story was no longer just about one player. It had become part of football history itself, discussed every time loyalty was questioned. Over time, emotions did not disappear. They only changed shape. Anger turned into disappointment, and disappointment slowly turned into a lasting memory that fans never fully let go of. Every time the player stepped onto the pitch against his former club, the atmosphere became heavier than a normal match. It was no longer just football being played. It was history being replayed through emotion. The connection that once felt unbreakable was now replaced by a constant reminder of what had happened and why it could never be forgotten by those who experienced it. Even years later, discussions about the transfer continued. Supporters, analysts, and football fans across the world still debated whether the decision was right or wrong. Some argued that it was a normal part of modern football, where loyalty often competes with ambition. Others insisted that certain clubs and certain players share a bond that should never be broken. This disagreement ensured that the story never faded away. Instead, it became one of those rare moments in football that stays alive through constant debate and emotional memory. What made this story powerful was not just the transfer itself, but the emotional impact it created. It showed how deeply fans can connect with a player, and how fragile that connection can be when tested by real decisions. Football is not only about results or trophies. It is also about identity, loyalty, and belonging. When those elements are challenged, reactions become stronger than any tactical analysis. This story became a clear example of how one moment can permanently change the relationship between a player and an entire fan base. The story never truly ended, because moments like this continue to live inside football culture. Every new controversial transfer brings this case back into discussion as a reminder of how powerful emotions can be in the game. It is not just about one player anymore, but about a pattern that repeats whenever loyalty and ambition collide. Fans may move on, clubs may change, but certain stories remain fixed in memory, always ready to be brought back whenever football history is debated. And that is why this transfer will never be forgotten. It stands as one of the clearest examples of how quickly a hero can become an enemy in the eyes of supporters. In football, talent creates admiration, but decisions create legacy. This was not just about where a player went. It was about what that decision meant to everyone watching. From Hero to Enemy is not just a title. It is the reality of one of football's most emotional stories.